I'm trying to embrace doing things imperfectly right now because it's better to do something imperfectly than not do it at all. And this video is something I've been, I think, a bit scared to make because I feel like I need to do it perfectly or I shouldn't do it at all, and I don't think that's a good approach. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. I have much less than a full cup of water and I'm tired after a long day of work, so let's do this tag. It is the hashtag standwithtranskids tag. It was originally created by Leo Bancroft. I will link to his fantastic channel and his video down below. I am terribly late to be doing this tag, so question 1, tag some fabulous friends who also may want to do this tag and hashtag standwithtranskids. As I said, I am very late to doing this. I know a lot of people have already done it. I've not watched that many of them. I'm sorry, I do want to, but I'm just so behind on all Booktube watching and not having much time for that, so I don't really have a sense of who's done this. If you have not done this tag, I tag you to do it. I want to hear your answers, but I'm sorry, I was not organized enough to go through and try and figure out who has and hasn't done it. Question 2. Tell us about some books on your TBR pile featuring a trans/non-binary character or non-fiction about trans/non-binary stuff. So the first one, and the one that I really only found out about recently in kind of in a roundabout way, but I really want to read now, is Love Lives Here by Amanda Jette Knox. This author is non-binary, but I think this memoir was written before they came out as non-binary, more about their experience with first their teenage daughter coming out as trans, and then also after that their wife. And it sounds like a fascinating topic that I have not read much about in general, and I don't know much about, so I would be curious to learn and curious to read someone's experience with that. And it's particularly interesting to me because Knox is actually from like the same city where I live. I actually came across them on Twitter when I was seeing them retweeted by people who were like talking about COVID policy stuff in our area, and then started following them and then discovered this book. So I'm really curious to, I guess, learn about something so close to home. I don't know why that makes a difference to me. I guess because this will be learning about people's experiences here where I live, where I can make a bit of a difference in some way, theoretically, by being engaged politically and voting. Like, I care about learning about issues all over the world, of course. That is so important. I don't ever want to be someone who only focuses on my home. But at the same time, I think especially in Canada, we can have a bit of a tendency to let what is going on in the US kind of take over, and we either don't think about Canada at all or just assume that, oh, well, we're not like them and we don't have some of these issues. And that's not true, and I do want to be more aware about these things and more up to date about what's going on in my own community and not. Another book on my TBR is Manywhere by Morgan Thomas. This is a debut short story collection about queer and genderqueer characters in the southern US. I think it is either coming out or just came out in 2022. I don't really need to know anything else because that like one-line premise alone says to me that's a book that I will probably like a lot and I should just read it. So it's on my TBR. Question 3. Recommend a favorite book/show/movie featuring a trans/non-binary character. Okay, so favorites that are recent faves and I have loved so much and cannot wait to read more of is Empress of Salt and Fortune and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Nghi. These are fantasy novellas set in a fantasy version of Imperial China is how I have heard it described. That sounds accurate to me, but I'm not an expert. And we follow a young cleric or monk, I can't remember what the exact term they use is, who is part of a monastery that records history and sort of travels around the countryside recording history and recording information and recording stories. And these novellas don't tend to really have plots in the traditional sense, but they're more about the telling of story within the story, and it's just wonderful. And anyway, the reason I bring it up here is that the main character is non-binary. I also recently read A Dream of a Woman by Plett, which was not my favorite, but it was excellent in what it was doing, which is being a short story collection about trans women, like actively about trans women, exploring themes related to their transness and their femininity and all sorts of like things that come up both tangentially related to that and directly related to that. The character stuff was really cool. I just didn't vibe with the writing, but it is like a really, really cool book, and I did really like want to love it. It just didn't quite work for me. Question 4. Everyone has their own journey and no one demographic is a monolith. Recommend a book with a journey, however you define that. For this one, I have to choose All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes by Maya Angelou. This is the 5th out of her 7 autobiographies and follows her time living in Ghana with her teenage son and what her life was like there and some of the things she experienced, the people she meets, the conversation and thoughts she's having. It's just a really, really fascinating book and a fascinating perspective that, like, I don't know, you've just got to read it and check it out because it's so good. Okay, I just realized that it's getting super dark in here, so I've turned the laptop screen up even more, but that's about the level of lighting I'm willing to play with today, so that's what we're gonna do. Question 5. None of us knows everything, even about our own identities, especially since we're not a monolith and each have our own journey. What is a book that taught you something either about yourself or the world around you? This 110% is Revolting Prostitutes by Juno and Molly Smith. This is a book about sex workers and sex workers' rights, and also how various legal systems around the world treat sex work on paper versus how they actually implement these laws, and what impact does that actually have on sex workers as opposed to what impact does it claim it's going to have. And what makes this really, really fantastic, in addition to being super well written and well researched and put together and all of that, is the fact that it is written by sex workers. This book was incredibly, incredibly insightful. I don't know the last time a book has made me seriously question and consider and examine and, in many cases, change my opinions on something. It was phenomenal. I want to recommend it to everybody, and just read it and think. You don't have to agree with this book, but have a think about the things that it is presenting and actually examine them in your head. 6. When things are hard in the world or in our lives, sometimes there are things we can do to help center and refocus ourselves, to bring joy, to keep us going, to keep living, resisting, being our authentically amazing selves. What are things you do to center yourself or find joy? On a very basic, human survival level, things like getting outside for even just a little bit of movement. I have this tendency to be like, oh, if I'm not gonna go for a 5-kilometer walk, there's no point doing anything. When it's like, no, even 10 minutes just walking around the block will make me feel better. Actually making sure I drink enough water, eating healthy food, showering. I so often take a shower and just am like, oh, okay, I actually do feel better now. I don't know how it works, but it's kind of magic on me. And just sleeping are my basic first level taking care. And then once that sort of stuff is going well, I'm obsessed with my skincare routine right now. That's bringing me a lot of joy and a lot of peace and a lot of just calming, soothing time. Also, lighting. I know I'm not putting any effort into lighting for my videos these days, and it really shows, but in terms of my home, that lighting I am really working with, and it's feeling great. I love the mood lighting right now. Baking, still doing that, still enjoying it, doing some more low effort things, but that's kind of the story of my life right now, and that's all cool. Question 7, what's your walk-on music or your feel at home in your body music? I this is the sort of question that when you ask me what music I like, I'm like, I don't know. I have never liked a single music ever in my life. But like, I like music. I just like, I never know how to answer this question. I like boppy things. I like things that feel like a bop. Question 8. Finding mentors, people of wisdom, or heroes can be another way to help us navigate life. Who are some of your mentors? Can you share something they taught you or inspired you to learn more about? So this feels super cliched, and even my like more upbeat self a week and a half ago when I planned these answers was being optimistic with this, but like, is it cliche to say my parents? I didn't get a lot of their decisions when I was in my like early teens and in my teens and stuff. I was like, this is dumb. Why do my parents do things this way? I don't get it. Why can't we do things like all of my friends' families seem to? And then the older I got and the more I learned about the world and the more I learned about just everything, the more I was like, oh no, I get it. Yeah, that made total sense. And even the things where I don't do the same thing that they do, because for sure I make different choices in my life to what they make, and that's fine and that's a good thing. I feel like I really can understand why they made the choices they do, and my interpretation of this anyway, and maybe I don't think either of them watch my videos, but if they do, they might disagree with me, but that is that they've always made the choices that were right for them and their family and their circumstances, and if that's not what everyone else does, if that's okay. And that is definitely an approach I really try and have in my life. Not that I make that many particularly unconventional choices, but just trying to really always make my choices based on what is going to best serve me and my life, what is going to bring me the most happiness, satisfaction, utility to use, not what is the thing to do. Okay, this is getting too deep. Leo, you made a tag that's too deep. This is difficult. Question 9. Who are some out trans/non-binary booktubers, Instagrammers, authors, actors, etc. who you'd like to shout out? First of all, of course, if it's not obvious enough already, Leo, the wonderful creator of this tag. Also, Kevi, who is co-hosting Catch's Discworld read-alongs with me, and also Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plett. Kevi is absolutely incredibly fabulous and so much fun. I didn't know how she could be more fun in person than she was in her videos, but she is, and you need to go check out in person on live stuff. We haven't met up in person, although, like, if you're ever in the area. My final booktuber I want to shout out is AJ Dunn. I did a buddy read with them in March, I think, and it was so fabulous. Their reading and the way they review books is always so thoughtful and like just well put together and thought out. I don't know how else to say that. It sounds weird, but seriously, they brought up so many things in Bitter Orange that I hadn't even noticed or thought about, and it was really, really fun to discuss them. So make sure you go check out those fabulous booktubers. And question 10, what are some organizations you'd like to shout out for supporting trans kids/trans folks? I have not actually finished researching this tag at time of filming, so I'm going to link some stuff in the description so that it is editing Rosie's problem to find them. All right, my water ran out like at least 10 minutes ago, and I am feeling dry from chatting, so I am going to go and refill that. Let me know down below if you have done this tag, because I would like to watch everyone else's answers. If you like this video, make sure you hit like down below. If you would like to see more of my videos, make sure you hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.